All the dirty work, all dog. I'ma dive on the floor, go try to block every shot, and I'ma be physical with you the whole game. You know Stu gonna be physical with you. When you think of the Pistons, you think of just hard work and just gritty basketball. That's just the identity you gotta have when you put on that jersey.
I'm not your average breed of King 9. Not a good dog, I'm bad boy for life. I set the tone, don't care about no tick. Let it be known, I get my respect. Come in the lane and see I don't bluff. If you retaliate, that's on ya. They talking pundits, I hear your shade. Talking that shop, you must want this way. Tryna tell ya, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, if the dog palm, mess around, find out, for some barbecue sauce, boy, you better crop a hill, cause I'm like that. When you're ready for some barbecue sauce, boy, you better crop a hill, cause I'm like that. The dog palm, mess around, find out.
What up, though, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Downtown Deuce Show. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. As you guys can see, I'm in a different location today. One of my music producers got married last night, and we turned all the way up, so I could not miss that. So this episode is coming to you guys from North Carolina, and I am joined by Wifey here. She is also in the building for this one, guys. Wifey, say what's up.
Hey.
So, yeah, we're just here. But y'all know this won't stop the show. Y'all know we are still going to continue to pump out this content. And last night we had a game that we are going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get to that, man. So the Pistons faced off against the San Antonio Spurs in their final game of Summer League yesterday, and they lose 6-84 to finish with a record of 3-2 in Summer League play. So let's just start by getting to my initial thoughts. And before I do that, let me shout out everybody who was here in the chat because I see you guys. Papa Dez, what's going on, my dog? Says, let's go, the best sports podcast. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you always showing love. Trying to kill it, man. Trying to get it done. The show never stops, so we got to keep getting this content out to everybody. But I appreciate you, man, as always. Bryce Scott says, finally the notifications wouldn't work. I don't know. A few people have told me that they haven't been getting them, so I'm not sure. I'm going to actually take a look into that. Devon says, take your shirt off, spinning like a helicopter. North Carolina, is it South Carolina? I think it's South Carolina. Maybe it's both. But yeah, you know the vibes, bro. Sean Haddock says, where in North Carolina? I live. Oh, that's what's up, man. I actually am in Greensboro right now. So let me know how far away that is from you, Sean. I actually have family in North Carolina too. That's what's up. Sarah, what's going on, Sarah? Listen, this coming week, we are going to be doing a Summer League breakdown of it in its entirety. And I'm going to want to have you here because you know your Pistons basketball. So like I mentioned to you before, stay tuned for the details for that. All right, let's go ahead and get into my initial thoughts for this game. So let's start with Ron Holland. Ron Holland expectedly did not play. He didn't play the previous game against the Heat, I think it was. So no surprise there. And also Dennis Jenkins, who started the first 4 games, he came off the bench in this one. And the reason for that was because this game was more about getting other guys involved, getting other guys an opportunity to audition for other teams and to showcase their ability. And I say that because every active player on the roster played in this game. All 16 players. Everybody who was active got a chance to get on the court. And every single one of those guys played at least 10 minutes. At least 10 minutes. And nobody played more than 18 minutes. So it was very well spread out. Very much an opportunity to give guys a chance to audition. And it made sense because the Pistons didn't have a shot of making it to the Summer League semifinal, which is reserved for the top 4 teams. And most of the teams, I believe, are undefeated. So the Pistons were already out of that hunt. So it just made sense to give guys an opportunity. So that's what they did. They gave guys a chance to grab some attention around the league of other teams who may be looking to potentially add some depth to their rosters. So I feel that had we had a regular rotation that we've been using the first 3 games, the Pistons would have won this game. They would have won this game. They opened this game up on a 12-0 run. And they were putting the clamps on the Spurs. The Spurs couldn't do anything. They couldn't get off any clean looks, and the Pistons just kept turning them over. They were just suffocating them defensively. So, excuse me, like I mentioned, had they played the regular rotation, they would have won this game. But once again, it was nice to see other guys get a chance, get the opportunity. All these guys, they work really hard at their craft. And for some of these guys, yesterday was the most important game that they've ever played in as far as their careers professionally. So shout out to them. It was good to see them get a chance. But now let's just get to some of the key guys that we've been paying attention to. And let's go ahead and start with Bobby Klintman. Let's get a few more comments in before we do that. Devon says, I was too tired to watch the game. I've also been working 2 jobs lately to pay back myself from my wedding. Oh, congratulations, bro. How have you guys been looking overall? We've been looking solid. We're going to get to that, man. Detroit Red, what's going on? Sean says he lives 1 hour from Greensboro. My sister, we may have to link up, Sean. I'm gonna try to tap in with you after the stream is over. Nashawn says summer of peaks and valleys. Absolutely. All right. So let's start with Bobby Klintman. Let's get into his box score. Last night, he had 2 points on 1 for 6 shooting, 0 of 2 from 3, 3 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and 1 turnover in 18 minutes. So some of you guys may look at that box score and get concerned. Not me. Not at all. At all. The game plan, like I mentioned in this game, was to get other guys involved offensively and to showcase others. So for me, personally, Bobby has shown me enough to give me confidence that he can be that backup for next season because he can provide more than what we got out of last year at that spot with Simone Fontecchio, right? The commentator on the call for this game, his name is Jimmy Dykes, and he's a former college coach, and he has some things to say about some of these guys, including Bobby. One thing that he said was that Bobby Klintman is not a point forward, but good things happen when the ball is in that dude's hands, end quote. And like I mentioned, man, when he's able to get penetration off of dribble handoffs, right, DHOs, or attacking closeouts hard, something good usually happens. And we saw it again in this game. When he was able to get his defender on his hip, he made pass after pass, perfect bounce passes to guys like Tolu Smith, backdoor cuts for easy dunks and layups. That's what he can do. That's his game. He's a playmaker. He can make plays for you. He does need to improve his game, and I would say at least a few different areas, right? Not across the board, but a few areas I think he really needs to improve his game. But we did see again, he's not really able to easily get by his guy at will in space. That first step doesn't really have a lot of burst. And you saw it. He had a couple bad shots where he was trying to create for himself. And once again, that's not his game. But despite that, I still think he can be very, very effective for this team. And I say that because we talked about this a little bit last show, but let's kind of get into it a little bit more, a little bit deeper. So we talk about Bobby playing the backup four, right? And we talk about him needing space to be able to make plays for others. Enter Isaiah Stewart, right? Who Bobby would be playing with off the bench if he were to get that spot. Isaiah Stewart, guys, as you guys all know, is one of the best screeners in the league. Right? So imagine Stu and Bobby running those DHOs, running that dribble handoff action. Stu bringing the ball to him and setting that screen to allow Bobby to get downhill. That would allow Bobby to get 2 feet in the paint much easier, give much more space, especially with Stu stonewalling Bobby's defender, setting that screen, right? That would just give Bobby so much more room to operate. So keep an eye out for that because it's really just all about just giving or having the right combinations on the court to maximize these guys' skill sets. And I think having a guy like Stu would really help a guy like Bobby to be able to get into space. So I think Bobby and Stu guys could really be a solid bench tandem in the front court, the inside-outside game, because on the other end, on the other side, we talked about how Bobby could benefit, right? But we all know Bobby is going to get, a rolling Stu after he sets that screen and dives to the rim. He's going to get him easy looks at the rim with his passing, right? He's got great vision, he's got great timing, and he is very accurate with his passes. And we saw him time and time again, and last night we saw him do it, just delivering passes to Tolu Smith on time, on target. So offensively, I think he can be very effective, even though he does have limitations. And I think the Pistons are going to utilize that. And I think Coach Bickerstaff, once again, who put all these guys in their best positions to be successful last year, right? We saw all these young guys take a jump last year. Everybody in the young core took a jump. Cade, Jaden, Asar, JD, Ron Holland, even some of the vets like Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, THJ. All those guys played very well, right? Young guys took a huge leap, or some of the vets had a resurgent leap, right? A lot of guys like Tobias Harris, who we brought in last year, was very underwhelming for a lot of fans, but he overperformed, right? He really exceeded expectations last year. And same thing. THJ, you got pretty much what you thought you were going to get from him, right? So Coach Bickerstaff knows how to put these guys in position to be successful. And I think he can do the same thing for a guy like Bobby Klintman. All right. Now that's offense, right? So let's get to the defensive side of the ball with Bobby. And we all know he's not the quickest. He's not the fastest. He's not the most athletic, especially by NBA standards, right? But he's very smart. He understands how to play team defense, right? He makes solid. He's good with his rotations. He understands how to play angles. He's got good shot clock recognition, right? He does a lot of little things that get overlooked really well already. And once again, that goes back to his IQ. And those things, when you're not athletic, you need those things. If you're not a superior athlete, you need to know the fundamentals of the game on both sides. And defensively, he already has a lot of those things. He can grow, he can improve, but you see that he understands the game pretty well. And to open this game, he had a nice block on the contested three ball. I saw him check the opposite shot clock to see how much time was left, and he went up hard for the shot, for the block, and he got it, right? So he also has a fairly solid wingspan. He's got a pretty good wings. He's got very long arms. He's 6'9", but he's got a 7 wingspan. That's pretty good, right? For context, think about a guy like Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun Prince was also 6'9" with a 7 wingspan. No. I'm not saying Bobby Klintman is the next coming of Tayshaun Prince. I'm just simply giving you guys a comp of a player that Pistons fans are familiar with, right? And we know that Tayshaun's length really bothered guys like Kobe Bryant, right? When he was guarding him in the finals and really shut him down, right? So that length is important for a guy like Bobby. Bobby isn't the athlete of Tayshaun Prince. I'm not saying he's anything like Tayshaun Prince. I'm just saying from a measurable standpoint, right? He can take advantage of his length. So another thing I want to see Bobby work on defensively is his foot speed. Right? There were a few times defensively when the Spurs guards would get penetration to the rim. Bobby would show help, and he would tag down into the paint, right? But when the guard would make the skip pass to the ball side corner where Bobby's man was, you would see Bobby, he would react quickly, right? He would understand the pass is coming, but he couldn't make the move until it was made. And once he made the move out there to get out there, he was a little bit slow getting out to contest in the corner to his guy. So it wasn't terrible, but in the NBA, man, you got to get out there because guys are going to kill you. You got to be able to recover and get out there a little bit quicker and close a little bit harder. And I want to see him work on that because there were a few times where the guy was just kind of looked out there for a little bit longer than I would like. He was able to get comfortable, take his time, and get the shot off. So he needs to work on that. But like I said, I do think that he has enough right now to be the backup for this team. And I really do think I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I know some people are down on him or don't really see it, but I really do think he can be effective once again, once he's utilized properly in very specific points, right? We always talk about it. We want to see him in that Money Fontecchio role. Can he provide more in that role? And I think the answer is yes. So we'll see how it plays out. Now, let's check a few comments to see if there are any, and then we'll get back. Let's see. What's going on, Shift God? Paper Jenkins did not like Summer League. I hear you. I hear you. Bobby, Team Savant says Bobby play as I don't see him a small forward. And honestly, I don't see how you could play him a small forward when you have Ron Holland. Unless you plan to play Ron at the 4. I'd rather keep Ron at the 3. Let him be the backup 3 to back up Asar Thompson. And maybe you can play him some minutes at the 4, but I would primarily like to see Bobby at the 4 whenever he is in the game. So we'll see how it plays out, especially having to guard, right? I think he can guard 4s better than he can guard 3s because, once again, I don't know if he has a foot speed as of right now to be able to guard 3s consistently out there. Maybe he can, but I would just feel more comfortable. We saw him primarily at the 4 in Summer League. So I want to see him there because he seems to be comfortable there. Maybe as he gets more and more comfortable, you can move him to the 3, but I think right now he needs to be at the 4. Bryce Scott says this will definitely be Bobby's sink or swim season based off of their salary situation. I agree. This is because a lot of times I hear fans saying when it comes to Jaden Ivey, this is the year, right? This is the year for Jaden to take that next leap. It should have been last year, and it would have been last year had he not gotten hurt. But this is the year for Jaden, right? Same thing with Bobby. This is the year for him to show that he belongs in the league, and I think he will. All right, so now let's go ahead, guys, and move on to our next guy, Dennis Jenkins, right? So Dennis Jenkins in this game, guys, he had 2 points on 0 for 5 shooting, 0 for 2 from 3, 2 of 4 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 turnover in 12 minutes. So Dennis didn't play until the second half of this game. And he started the second half with an all-bench unit. So he didn't shoot well, right? 0 for 5 overall, 0 for 2 from 3. But same situation, guys. Same thing. A lot like Bobby, I'm not concerned because the game plan for this game was very different, right? This game really featured the other guys. And the offensive flow, it just wasn't there. It wasn't the same because so many of these guys were trying to make the most of their opportunity in this game. So it's a lot more one-on-one, a lot less passes being made, right? A lot less team basketball, and a lot more guys just trying to show, hey, this is what I can do. Watch me, right? So that was what we saw. So it wasn't as much flow, and I think that affected guys like Bobby and guys like Dennis Jenkins, who neither one of those guys really played well. But it doesn't mean, once again, it's not indicative of can it translate to the NBA because this game was scripted different, right? And it really looked like to me like Dennis was just trying to help other guys show off, right? He was trying to get other guys going, right? That was what I saw watching him. But overall, this game included, like I mentioned, he played overall very, very well in Summer League. In my opinion, he was easily the second best player on his team. Easily behind Rob Holland, he was the second best player. So let's go ahead and I want to show you guys a stat for Dennis Jenkins from this year and last year, right? So as you guys can see on the left-hand side are Dennis Jenkins stats from Summer League, and on the right-hand side are the stats from this year. And you can just see right away, you can see the jumps that he made. The minutes were about the same, but he went from 9.6 points to 17. The rebounds, he took a small dip from 3.2 to 2.5. The assists, he pretty much doubled up from 3.8 to 6.5. The steals are about the same at 1. The field goal percentage, guys, 35 last year, 50 this year. The three-point percentage, 33 last year, 47 this year. So you guys can see Dennis Jenkins was definitely a standout player. He just looked so much more comfortable. And it was just great to see him really be able to take advantage of this opportunity, man. I really do think that he's going to make the opening night roster. And I think a big part of it for him, because if you guys remember, myself and King, we talked about Dennis Jenkins and Bobby Klintman around this time last year. Those were the two guys who jumped off the page for me, just watching how they play. And even though Bobby didn't shoot well, or Dennis didn't shoot well last year, he didn't shoot great from 3 last year, I still felt like he had potential. It still seemed to me like he was a guy that could stick around the NBA. And now we're just seeing, because now he has more comfortability, right? More comfortability now with this offense and playing with this team and being with these guys, he's reaping the benefits of that. And that's why I always say time is important. You got to give these guys time. You got to give these guys time. It doesn't happen overnight. But being able to play and being one of the featured guys with the Motor City Crews, who they run a lot of the same sets as the Pistons do, right? That gives you the confidence. That's what gives you that comfortability, just getting those reps. Just getting those reps. And you see the results of those reps. He just looks so much better and so much more in tune. He even said about a week and a half ago when he was being interviewed post-game that last year he was just kind of just playing basketball during Summer League. He was just kind of playing. He said, but this year he has so much more intention. He played with so much more intention. He knew what he was going to do when he got in the court. He knew what he needed to do. He knew who he needed to be, and he knew how to help others be who they needed to get to as well. So once again, for the 1,000th time, you got to give these guys time, right? Because the potential is there. So once again, Dennis Jenkins, I think, will be on the opening night roster. He's proven it. He's been a model of consistency, and he's just a pure point guard. He is a pure point guard, man. There's no doubt about what he is. He is a guy who is an orchestrator, floor general, and can really put guys in position to be successful. And then he's sneaky with his own offense. He can get buckets as well. So I really think he has earned that. All right. Sarah Jenkins says, Jenkins, he deserves more minutes. Yeah, I think he'll get some opportunities for sure next season. She says it was being groomed. Oh, that's different. Okay. Devon says Jenkins really can be the backup point guard, in my opinion. Him and Sass, I don't know. And I want to make sure I'm clear, guys. I like Marcus Sasser a lot. He's a bucket. And I don't want to sound like I'm just, setting him up to tear him down. I'm not. But I just want to make it clear that I really am a fan of his game. It's just hard because you go back to what Trajan Langdon said a couple weeks ago about the guys he brought in and why he brought them in via free agency or via the draft. He said he wants optionality. He said he wants defensive versatility, and he said that he wants size. And Marcus Sasser, a 6'1", who is a smaller shooting guard, who really doesn't play point guard that well, he just doesn't really give you that. He just doesn't give you that. So just based off of Trajan Langdon's words alone, I don't see how Sass is able to get much of an opportunity. And I think he's a good enough player to where he does deserve to get an opportunity, whether it's here or somewhere else, right? Just on a personal level with him and his career, I think he deserves that. So I just don't see how he gets that opportunity here, because adding guys like Chaz Lanier, who's a bucket, right, who's a sniper, adding guys like Duncan Robinson. Chaz Lanier is 6'4", Duncan Robinson 6'7", right? Karis LeVert is 6'4", 6'5", right? All those guys have size, and that's the thing that Trajan Langdon really focused on and highlighted when talking to the media a few weeks ago. So once again, based on his words, I don't see how he gets the opportunity. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. You guys let me know, but it's going to be tough for him. Sarah says, agreed. More time equals more confidence. Yep. Better ability to come out and produce consistently. Exactly. And that's exactly, Sarah, what he did. He was consistent. He has been consistent. He hasn't really had a game where you're like, what are you doing, Dennis? He looks very much in control of what he wants to do. And that's very important for a second unit. She says he drives to the basket, nice jump shot, nice threes, super well-rounded offensively. Yeah, he's not going to average 30 points, 20 points. He's just going to come in and do his job, and he's going to do it well. He takes care of the ball, too. He's not a guy who is turnover happy. He's not turnover prone. The first 3 games, I think he had a total of 3 turnovers combined. So that's exactly what you want. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Devon, last one says, Sass isn't bad. It's just we're improving and becoming more serious. Yeah, this is phase 1.5. I can't say we're into yet. Yeah, we're entering 2, I think, going into next season. But yeah, I'm with you. This is definitely still the beginning stages. And once again, if he's not going to be part of the future, it's, put him in a situation to where he can be. I think he deserves that. All right. So now let's go ahead, guys, and move on to, we got 2 more guys we're going to get, or 3 more guys. We'll do 1 more guy. Let's go to Tolu Smith. So Tolu Smith, guys, in this game had 10 points on 4-6 shooting, 2 of 5 from the free throw line, which is uncharacteristic of him because he's a pretty good free throw shooter. He had 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 turnovers in 15 minutes. I like Tolu Smith, guys. I'm not going to lie. I like Tolu. My nickname for Tolu Smith is the cleanup man. I call him the cleanup man. It seems like at least once every game, he's getting an offensive rebound and getting an and 1 finish. This dude goes after everything. And his activity allows him to get a lot of those second chance opportunities for himself and for others. And once again, in this last game, he did the same thing. And one thing that I noticed about Tolu is that he finishes pretty well with either hand. He had a couple lefty scoops yesterday in yesterday's game, just off the pass to Bobby. When Bobby, out of the pick and roll, dropped it off to him, Tolu had a nice lefty finish, lefty scoop off the glass. And he's done that throughout Summer League. So we've seen him continue to improve year over year, too. He's got a pretty good touch around the rim. I got a few comments. I wanted to address this. I got a few comments from our last show. Good comments, good interaction. But I disagree with what was being said. I heard a lot of Tolu Smith is not an NBA player. I disagree. On one hand, I can understand why that may be the thought process, but I disagree. And here's why. During the game, Jimmy Dykes, who we talked about earlier, said that Tolu Smith loves ball and that his love for the game for a guy his size is exceptional. Jimmy Dykes was a commentator on last night's game. He said he's a guy that you have to kick out of the game because he's always working on his game, or kick out of the gym because he's always working on his game. He's always in the gym. He's a gym rat, always putting in work. And then he went on to say that guys like that, someone who chose the game instead of the game choosing him because of his size, guys who have a love for the game those guys find a way to stick around in the NBA. I thought that was very telling because that's also what I see in Tolu Smith. He may not ever be an NBA starter, maybe not even a consistent rotational player, possibly, but let's just say he's not that. I still think he can be a guy that you want to have on your bench, not just because of his size, his athleticism, but because he works extremely hard and he loves the game. Guys who love the game, you don't have to motivate them to get in the gym. Like you have to kick them out of the gym. Think about a guy like Jaden Ivey, who every single coach who he's had has said that we have to kick him out of the gym. He's always in the gym. He was trying to get back into the gym working out before he should have been. That's just Monty Williams said that they might as well have changed his home address to the practice facility because he's at the practice facility more than he's at home, right? The guys like that are always going to get better. They're going to continue to work on the game, and you're going to see consistent improvement from those guys. I love hearing that, and that's so Tolu Smith fits that mold. He's the same kind of guy. And like I mentioned, that's a guy you want on your team, and that's a guy you want in your locker room. You want that kind of guy in your locker room. I think having a guy like Tolu Smith, think about this, a guy like Tolu Smith, right? Battling in practice, that relentless motor, much like how Isaiah Stewart has, the relentless motor, that would serve guys like Jalen Duren very well. Very well. Just to maintain that high level of playing hard every second that you're on the court, like we saw JD do the back half of last season, right? Adding a guy like Tolu Smith would just kind of reinforce that. We know Isaiah Stewart, he's doing that already. But you can't have too many of those guys. And having a bigger guy, a longer guy like Tolu Smith, having him go against JD, I think that will serve both of those guys, all those guys well. Just having that competitive fire, that competitive nature every time you step between those lines, whether it's practice, preseason, regular season, playoffs, finals. It doesn't matter. You always want to have that same approach, and he has that. And that is the kind of thing that is contagious and can rub off on a team. So I loved to hear that about Tolu Smith. He's just going to get better and better with time, and that's why I think he's an NBA player. And then you consider this too. The Pistons don't have a ton of size. We all know this, right? Nor do they have a lot of cap space to really work with right now to add a quality big. So I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Tolu Smith gets a few opportunities this season if the Pistons need to go bigger, or if they're dealing with foul trouble, or if they're dealing with injuries, like on wood, right? So one thing I want to see him work on, though, is developing a 10 to 15-foot jump shot, right? We know he's a good paint presence, right? He's a good finisher. I call him the cleanup man. He works his tail off in that paint. But the deep roll in the paint, out of the screen, the deep roll, to dive to the glass, or the lob is not always going to be there off the screen. So it's nice to be able to pick and pop, right? Or just go to the short roll, right? Just not diving all the way to the basket, but just stopping short, about 10, 15 feet, right? Maybe the free throw line in that area, right? And being able to knock down that jumper consistently is going to keep the defense honest. And that'll open up more things for the offense, for guys like, we think about guys like Asar Thompson with Jalen Duren, right? Jalen Duren has been working on that jumper. But even with him not even having polished it completely yet, you still saw when he caught the ball, right, out of the screen, when K would dump it off to him, who's cutting to the basket? Asar Thompson. Who's catching the lob? Asar Thompson, right? He's either in the dunker spot or he's cutting hard weak side, right? So developing that jump shot, it can really open up everything else because the defense is keyed on you and they're worried about you knocking down that shot, which opens up everything for everybody else around. If you don't have that jumper as a threat, they're just going to leave you. They're going to sag off you. They're going to allow you to take the shot and they can pack the paint more, right? So that's why just that one thing of developing that jump shot can really go a long way for a guy like Tolu. But overall, Tolu was solid, and I think he deserves a shot, and I think he'll get some opportunities this season. So we'll see. A few comments on Tolu. Let's see what we got. Team Savant says Tolu looked like he's yes, yeah, perfect timing, bro. We just talked about that. Tolu looked like he's been working out with JD, 100%, and I think he needs to continue to do that. It's only going to help his game because those guys kind of have similar games as far as where they play, right? JD's not stretch five, Tolu's not stretch five. Both of those guys make their money. Their bread and butter is in that paint, right? So it's just going to make both guys better. Devon says, I was just about to say J.I. 100%. You get it. Yeah, same kind of guy, same kind of mindset. Guys with those mindset, it really does serve well for your team, and it serves well for those guys individually. So same page, bro, 100%. Sarah says, rooting for Tolu just feels like he just needs a few tweaks to get the most out of every possession, and sounds like he's working toward that daily. Yeah, like I noticed, like as far as that 10 to 15-foot jumper, the reason I say that is because I've seen him take a few of those. He can knock them down, but not consistently enough to make the defense respect it. Like yesterday, he had one that was a clanker. He clanked it hard off the rim. It wasn't pretty, right? So that's not indicative of who he is, but I do think it's indicative of him not being consistent from out there, right? So work on that. I think everything else he's pretty much got down, and I think he's going to continue to get better. So I hope he gets his chance. Devon says, I can't wait until the season starts. I still want a forward, but I think something is going to happen. All these buyouts, CBA. Yeah, man, the CBA, the second apron is like the Grim Reaper. Like everybody is trying to stay away from that second apron. We saw what Boston did in shedding hundreds of millions of dollars of salary cap just to be able to avoid the second apron. Guys who were part of that championship team, guys like Jenkins, gone like immediately. So the second apron is going to be very key for a lot of teams, and I think Trajan Langdon is managing the cap very well up until this point, and I think it's another reason which incentivizes teams to try to grow guys from within and not try to make the home run swing of trying to get a guy who is going to handicap you. I don't think any guy right now making $50 million or more is tradable. I just don't see it. I don't see how it happens, because it really is going to handicap you unless you are a team that has a ton of assets that you can afford to make that move, or you got a ton of cap space, you can afford to make that move. Outside of that, if you don't have a clean sheet, it doesn't make sense for you to make that kind of move, which is why I didn't see Devin Booker coming here. I didn't see that happening. Right? Devin Booker is making more than Cade Cunningham, and he's not a better player. Why would you make that move? It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, once again, yeah, you're right, Devon. The CBA is changing. You're going to see a lot of teams with a different approach to what they're doing. A lot of smaller deals being made, a lot of homegrown guys being groomed, right? Because those contracts are much smaller, so you might as well get the most out of those guys, or at least see what you have out of those guys before shipping them off and trying to get a star. A la Tolu Smith, a la Jenkins, a la Bobby Klintman. See where I'm going? So Devon, I totally agree with you, bro. 100%. All right, let's go to our next guy, guys, and Chaz Lanier, our rookie. Chaz Lanier tonight had 11 points, or last night, keep saying tonight. Last night had 11 points on 4 of 7 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, 1 rebound, 1 assist in 16 minutes. So bounce back game for Chaz. Bounce back game for sure, right? He came out firing. I think he started off 3 for 3 from the field. And this guy, man, when he's in rhythm, he's a sniper. He's got a clip. And he's got a great looking shot. He's got one of those shots where every time he releases it and lets it go, you think it's going in, right? And he's got a solid game. He's a really good mover without the basketball, and he's got a quick release. He's not a great ball handler though, right? We know he's not a point guard. He's strictly a shooting guard. I saw times yesterday when he was dribbling the ball up court. If he was getting any pressure in the backcourt, he was looking to find the point guard, whether it was Dennis Jenkins, whether it was Zakai. He was looking to get the ball out of his hands. So he's not that confident in his ball handling, and he may never be a great ball handler. He may be more so of a guy like Malik Beasley, who in spots can do it for you, but not somebody who you're looking to initiate offense. Just not his game. So, but aside from that, I do think that he also could garner some minutes next season. Not consistently, maybe not every game, but I do think he's going to get an opportunity, maybe when the offense is stagnated, or, when guys are not having, guys are out of rhythm, or you got foul trouble, just like with Tolu Smith. You may see guys like Chaz Lanier getting an opportunity to try to get the offense rolling, because he can score in bunches. He can really give you a lift, give you a burst when your offense is kind of stuck in the mud. So, and when you think about it, other than Duncan Robinson, he's the closest thing we have right now, skill set wise, to a guy like Malik Beasley or Tim Hardaway. A guy who can catch and shoot on high volume and good efficiency. He can do that. He's not going to be that as a rookie coming out of the gate next year, but he can help supplement some of what was missed. So I do think he may play a role next year. And don't forget, he replaced Dalton Connect at Tennessee, right? Dalton Connect, who plays for the Lakers. When he left, there was a gaping hole there. He was their best player. Enter Chaz Lanier in that spot. They don't skip a beat. They made it to the Elite Eight in one season with him being there last year. So He may not be a rotational player to start the season, but like I said, I do think he could potentially work his way into the rotation maybe later in the season if he is able to adjust well to the NBA game. And I think if he does that, he can provide some consistency with the shooting. So I liked what I saw from him overall. Wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was solid. So Chaz Lanier is going to be just fine. Few comments on Chaz, and then we'll get back. Sarah says, Chaz played great. Yes, he did play great off of Sakai, for sure. He looked more comfortable once he builds that with Cade. Man, you read my mind, Sarah. I was thinking the same things. A few times I would see off the board Sakai pushing the ball up the court, and he knew exactly where Chaz was going to be, and he put a little bit of pressure on the rim, tried to get downhill, but he knew all along that Chaz was trailing and he was going to get the ball to him. And Chaz knocked it down in rhythm, splash. I saw the same thing, Sarah. So yeah, once a guy like Cade learns his game, we know Cade is really good at making his teammates better. We saw what he did for Bees last year. Bees just not shattered the Pistons' all-time three-pointers made record without Cade, guys like Cade getting him those shots. Right? Not to say that Malik didn't earn that, but you got to be able to get put in position to knock down those shots, those open shots, especially when you're not a guy who can just go create for yourself and get those shots whenever you want, right? So once again, we saw with Bees, I think you may see Chaz Lanier watching some of that footage with Cade and Bees this offseason to see how he can kind of mimic that and to see how he can kind of be effective off of Cade if he does get the chance to play. So, Sarah, you hit that on the head. Hit it on the head. And I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to be just fine. So, yeah, Chaz Lanier, good player, man. One more guy I wanted to get to who was not on my radar at all. And he was a beneficiary of getting the opportunity last night, right? And that guy was John Ukamadu. I think I'm saying that right. John Ukamadu. Last night, he had 12 points on 5 for 9 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover in 16 minutes. And he surprised me. He's got some skill. He can score the basketball. He can shoot. He can put the ball on the floor. He's a good finisher. He's just a good player. He's got a bag too. He's got a nice offensive bag. So I don't think there's a role for him on this team. But once again, we talked about how guys may get an opportunity to audition for other teams. I think that he's going to be one of those guys who are going to garner some looks for some other teams. So it was good to see a guy like him get off. Shout out to him for taking advantage of the opportunity. So, yeah, that's all we got for this final game. The Pistons finished Summer League play, guys, with a record of 3-2. They will not qualify for the elimination semifinal round because of their loss. Their last 2 losses, actually, because only the top 4 teams advance. And like I said before, it's not a big deal. There are much more important things than winning a Summer League title, right? It's not indicative of much. But guys, this is the last time we are going to see Pistons basketball for a while. It's going to be a minute. Training camp isn't that far away, but we'll have to wait about 2.5 months until we see any Pistons hoops because the preseason does not start until October 4th. So got a little minute to wait. But like I mentioned before, this part of the season right now is the most important for our core guys, the offseason. Now is the chance and the opportunity for these guys to build consistency, camaraderie, and chemistry. Those are my three C's, right? Consistency, camaraderie, and chemistry. So guys like Asar Thompson, guys like Jaden Ivey, who didn't get to play as much as they would have liked to, whether it was the offseason as far as getting acclimated and working on your game for Asar, or whether it was just being able to play out the season in the playoffs for a guy like Jaden because of the injury. The offseason is going to be great for Asar to be able to, kind of really get back into the mode he was in the year before last when he was pretty much, playing good ball. And now he won't have to sit for 8 months due to a blood clot issue. He won't have to come back into the season after it's already started and try to get acclimated mid-season on the fly. Like being able to go into the offseason and into the season next year with a full offseason of work with your teammates, being on the court with your guys, is going to be huge for Asar. And then Jaden just getting a chance to get familiar with his body, getting reacclimated, building that trust back up, and also working on things in his game as well. It's just going to be great for all these guys. So I think this is the most important period for these guys, for our young core. Yeah, and of course, guys like Ron Holland are going to be huge next year. We talked about that. I'm looking forward to seeing Ron. Ron's going to be a beast next year. We all know it. All right. So a few comments, and then we will call it a night, guys. Let's see. Devon says, I've been thinking about it. I hope Cade works with Melo and Rondo. He can really break out this year. last year wasn't a breakout if you had been watching. Yeah, for sure. Like it wasn't a breakout in the sense that we all saw it coming. We all saw it coming. I think after the first 2 months of the season, 3 months of the season, we were all saying, "Oh, he's all star for sure. He's gonna get there, right?" So, but you're right because there were talks about Cade and Melo working together. We saw Cade kind of get during the playoffs against the Knicks when Cade was sitting under the rim. Cade had that breakaway dunk. He pointed at him, and Melo kind of saluted him. So those guys are rumored to be hopefully working together this offseason. I think he would really be good for Cade's game. Cade already does have a solid post game, but I think a guy like Melo, who was great in the post, great everywhere on the floor. Melo's a top 5 scorer all time, in my opinion. You got guys like Kobe, you got MJ, right? You can include LeBron if you want because of the 40,000 points. You got KD, who I think is the best scorer ever, right? Melo is in that conversation. He's right there, right there. So I do think that having a guy like Melo, who was very, very efficient, had great footwork, and was strong, are all things that Cade can incorporate into his game even more, make him an even better player. And then you mentioned Rondo. Yeah, Rondo is one of the best point guards, pure point guards ever. He gets overlooked a lot, but he's a championship point guard. He knows how to run an offense, and he's a dog defensively. He's a dog, man. So, 100%, I think both of those guys could really benefit him for sure, Devon. 100%. Miyuki says, aloha from Hawaii D2 and Pistons Nation. Our Pistons look great and can't wait for the next season. Let's go. Shout out to you, Miyuki from Hawaii. Appreciate you, man, as always. Devon says, I hate I can't rewatch. It'll be all right, man. As long as you can be ready for, the preseason, regular season, you'll be good to go. Last one. Zola55 says, Cade needs to work on his game too. Yes, he does. He had back-to-back games with 10 turnovers. Yes, he did. He lost his ability to make threes also. Don't see him as a superstar, but a good player that still needs improvement. Push back coming. Shout out to Zolar, but push back. If you go back and watch, during that period when he had those games of those 10 turnovers, it was around the time when Jaden Ivey went down and before Dennis Schroeder got here. It was during the time when guys like Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley were trying to help take some of that pressure off of Cade because Cade was the only facilitator on the team when Jaden went down before Dennis Schroeder arrived. That is why Schroeder arrived less than a month after Jaden went down, because they saw Cade playing 40 minutes a game, 43 minutes a game, 44 minutes a game is not going to do it. That's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it didn't work. And that's why we saw Cade's field goal percentage take a dip. His turnovers shot high, sky high, right? Because he was the only guy who could do those things. He was the only guy. So when you're tired, when you got that much responsibility, when your usage is that high, you're going to turn the ball over. Now, listen, 10 turnovers is a lot for anybody. I'm not even saying that's excusable, but I'm saying a big part of why that was, and a big part of why those came back down when we got Schroeder, was because we had somebody else who could take some of that pressure off of him. So I hope you follow what I'm saying, Zolar. You're right, though. The turnovers have to come down, but I think they will naturally just having more ball handlers on the court, having a Jaden Ivey back on the court with him, having a guy like Karis LeVert who can come in and play either guard spot will help him. You know what I mean? So having a Dennis Jenkins when things get tough on the court with him, allowing Cade to maybe play some shooting guard. Those are all things that can help Cade with his turnovers, his stamina, his wind, and his efficiency. So we'll see. Next season is going to be very telling. 2 more, we're out of here, guys. Sarah says Cade's getting his 50-point game. Oof. Man, I hope he doesn't have to. I think he'll be able to, but I hope he doesn't have to, because that means he's the only one really giving us anything. And maybe some games this season that'll be the case, right? There are going to be some off nights for everybody. Everybody's going to have some off games this year. Every single player is going to have some off games this year. So maybe there's a game or two where everybody has an off game except Cade, and he has to put the team on his back to get a win. If it happens, I hope it happens in a win. I hate seeing those kind of performances get lost because of us losing the game. Think about when Monty was here when we won 14 games. Take a look at some of those box scores in those games we lost. Take a look at what Cade did in those games. And then think about how much you remember from those games. Not much, because we lost. The headliner was the fact that we were 14-68. It wasn't that Cade had a triple-double when we lost by 10. You know what I'm saying? So if it does happen, Sarah, I hope it happens in a win. I hope because signature performances are forgotten if they're not wins, and they just kind of get overlooked. So we'll see, but I think he is capable. But once again, I hope he doesn't have to do that too often, because I think we have a team that can really help him and kind of shoulder some of that load on both ends. But Sarah, you're not wrong. He could do it. All right, last comment. We're out of here, guys. Devon says, whole team will improve with conditioning. It takes time, though. Yes, 100%. None of these guys are older than 24. I think Kate is 24, and I think he's the oldest. Or Stu is 24. I think those two guys are the oldest. But you got guys like Ron Holland, just turned 20. I think Asar's 22. JD's 21. I think Jaden's 22. So these guys are very, very young. They're all going to get better. They're all going to get stronger. They're all going to get smarter. And they're all going to play better as a unit the more they play together. So, yeah, it just takes time. This is why patience is important, and that's why we are not GMs and presidents, because a lot of knee-jerk decisions will be taking place if we were. So we'll leave it there, guys. We'll get out of here. That's our episode. Like I mentioned last episode, guys, I'm going to be doing a full Summer League recap, breaking down my biggest takeaways and what that means for certain guys who are trying to crack the rotation, like we talked about, going into next season. So talk to me in the comments and let me know what you guys' thoughts were. Let me know your takeaways were from the Summer League finale, which was yesterday, or from the Summer League as a whole, right? Let me know what your thoughts were, and let's keep the conversation going. And y'all know the drill. Detroit versus everybody. I'm out of here. Peace.
And when you knock me down, I'm getting back up. Cause when I step on the floor, you know your time's up. I'm on my way up and I'm not gonna stop. We headed straight to the top in the know. I gotta face it, I got no time to waste it.